He just wanted a quiet dinner. She just wanted to be seen for once. But one simple mistake changed everything. Rain fell in thick curtains over Manhattan, transforming the streets into distorted mirrors of neon lights and headlights. Liam Foster ran the last few meters to the door of Lumiere, a French restaurant he would never have the courage to enter under normal circumstances. His hands trembled as he shook water from his cheap coat, feeling the discreet glances of the maître d' who evaluated each customer like a sommelier evaluates wine. He checked his phone for the 10th time in 5 minutes. No message from Laura. Her photo on the dating app showed a woman with a shy smile, brown hair, and kind eyes. They had been chatting for 2 weeks, and tonight was supposed to be their first meeting. She had suggested this place, which had surprised him. Liam worked 2 shifts at an auto repair shop in Queens and could barely afford the appetizers here. Reservation under Foster, he said, his voice sounding smaller than intended. The maître d' consulted his tablet with an expression that suggested he was doing Liam an immense favor. Yes. Your table is ready. Please follow me. Liam walked through the restaurant, acutely aware of his worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over tables dressed in white linen. The murmur of sophisticated conversations mixed with soft piano music. He felt like an imposter in a world that wasn't his. The maître d' stopped at a table near the window where a young woman sat alone staring out at the rain. She was beautiful, but she didn't look like Laura's photo. This woman had features that seemed sculpted by an artist: high cheekbones, porcelain skin, dark hair falling in soft waves over her shoulders. She wore an elegant emerald dress that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Before he could say anything, she turned her face toward him. Her eyes were an intense green, holding a mixture of melancholy and something else, perhaps defiance. "You're Liam, right?" she asked, her voice smooth as velvet. He hesitated. This couldn't be Laura. But the reservation was under his name, and she seemed to be expecting someone. Maybe Laura had sent a friend? Maybe it was a test? "I am ... Laura," he responded, more as a question than a statement. She paused, a small smile forming at the corners of her lips. There was something sad in that smile, but also liberating. "You can call me that." Liam sat down, confused but intrigued. Something in the way she looked at him made him feel seen, truly seen, in a way he hadn't experienced in years. He didn't know that Amelia Grant had been waiting for her father, the billionaire Richard Grant, who had canceled on her for the 4th time that month due to a business emergency. He didn't know that she was tired of being invisible, of being treated like a fragile porcelain doll that everyone feared breaking. And she didn't know that Liam was waiting for someone else. That this encounter was built on a misunderstanding that would change both their lives forever. The waiter approached with menus that had no prices, never a good sign for Liam's wallet. But when he looked at Amelia again, something in her expression made him forget his worries. She looked at him with genuine curiosity, as if he were a book she desperately wanted to read. "It's raining a lot," she commented, breaking the silence. "You got wet." "Yeah, I ran from the subway. I didn't want to be late." He paused, studying her face. "You look different from your photo." Amelia felt her heart race. This was the moment to correct the mistake, to explain that she wasn't Laura, that this was all a misunderstanding. But the words stuck in her throat. For the first time in 3 years, since the accident that had taken her mother's life and left her dependent on a wheelchair for months, someone was looking at her without pity, without that expression of discomfort people show when they don't know how to act around someone who has suffered. "People say that about photos," she deflected, her voice steadier than she felt. "They never capture who we really are." Liam nodded, accepting the explanation. He opened the menu and felt panic rising in his chest. Even the simplest dishes cost more than he earned in a day of work. Amelia noticed his discomfort and felt a pang of guilt mixed with tenderness. "I heard the risotto here is excellent," she suggested, pointing to one of the more affordable options. "And the house wine is surprisingly good." He smiled, grateful. "It sounds perfect." As they ordered, Amelia felt something unfamiliar stirring inside her, a mixture of excitement and fear. She was lying to this man, yes, but she was also, for the first time in years, feeling alive. And Liam, looking at those green eyes that seemed to hold secrets he wanted to unravel, felt that maybe, just maybe, taking a chance on a dating app hadn't been such a crazy idea after all. Outside, the rain continued to fall, as if the universe itself were crying or celebrating what was about to unfold. The first course arrived with ceremonious elegance. A waiter in a black vest carefully placed the plates before them as if he were presenting works of art. Liam watched the perfectly arranged risotto, garnished with herbs he couldn't name, and felt absurdly out of place. But when he looked up and saw Amelia smiling at him with genuine warmth, that feeling dissipated like morning mist. So she began, twirling her fork between delicate fingers. Tell me something real about yourself. Not the rehearsed stuff people put in dating profiles. Liam laughed, a sound that surprised even him. When was the last time he had laughed genuinely? Real, huh? Okay. He thought for a moment, deciding to take a risk. I grew up without a father. He left when I was 6. I don't remember much about him, except the sound of the door closing that last time. Amelia's expression softened, and he saw understanding there, not pity, but recognition. That must have been difficult. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I started working at 16, sweeping floors at the same auto shop where I work now. I went to community college for a year studying mechanical engineering, but ... double quotes, he paused, the old shame creeping up. I had to drop out. Mom got sick. Early onset Alzheimer's. She's only 53, but some days she doesn't recognize me. The words came out before he could stop them. He never talked about this, not even with friends. But something about this woman made him want to open up, to be vulnerable. Amelia set down her fork, her eyes glistening. I'm so sorry, Liam. I can't imagine how hard that must be. What about you? He asked, wanting to shift focus from his pain. Tell me something real about Laura. She flinched at the name, but recovered quickly. This was her chance to tell the truth, to end this charade. Instead, she found herself diving deeper into the lie, or perhaps into a truth she had never been allowed to speak. I lost my mother, too, she said quietly. 3 years ago. Car accident. I was driving. The words hung in the air like a confession at church. I was drunk, coming back from a party. I thought I was fine, I'd only had a few drinks, but I wasn't fine. I lost control on a wet road and we hit a tree. Liam reached across the table instinctively, his oil-stained hand covering her perfectly manicured one. God, I'm so sorry. My mother died instantly. I survived with a shattered spine and pelvis. I was in a wheelchair for 18 months. I can walk now, but some days are harder than others. She looked down at their joined hands. My father never forgave me. He says he has, but I can see it in his eyes every time he looks at me. I'm not his daughter anymore. I'm the person who killed his wife. The rawness of her confession shocked them both. Amelia had never said those words out loud, not even in therapy. But here, with this stranger who thought she was someone else, the truth poured out like water from a broken dam. That's not fair, Liam said firmly. It was an accident. A terrible, tragic accident, but it wasn't murder. You made a mistake, and you've paid for it every day since. Have you ever felt invisible? Amelia asked suddenly, her green eyes intense. Like you're in a room full of people, but no one actually sees you? They see what they want to see or what they're afraid to see, but not the real you. Every single day, Liam responded without hesitation. I'm the guy who fixes cars. The guy with the sick mom. The guy who couldn't finish college. Nobody asks who I am underneath all that. It's what I dream about. What keeps me up at night beyond worry and bills? What does keep you up at night? She asked. He considered the question seriously. The fear that this is all there is. That I'll work these 2 shifts for the rest of my life, watching my mom forget me piece by piece, and I'll never do anything that matters. Never be anyone who matters. You matter, Amelia said with surprising intensity. You matter to your mother even when she doesn't remember. You matter to the people whose cars you fix, whose days you make easier. And right now, in this moment, you matter to me. Liam felt something crack open inside his chest, a wall he had built so carefully over the years. I just met you, and I feel like I've known you forever. Is that crazy? Completely crazy, she agreed, smiling through tears she didn't remember shedding. But maybe crazy is exactly what we both need. They talked through the main course and dessert, the conversation flowing effortlessly between deep revelations and comfortable silences. Amelia told him about feeling suffocated by expectations, about being treated like glass that might shatter at any moment. Liam told her about his dreams of opening his own shop someday, of building something that was truly his. Neither of them noticed the time passing, or the restaurant slowly emptying around them. They didn't see the waiter hovering nearby, too polite to interrupt. They existed in a bubble where only they mattered, where the outside world and all its complications couldn't reach them. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Amelia asked as they shared a chocolate souffle. Every day, Liam admitted, but not right now. Right now, for the first time in forever, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Amelia smiled, but guilt gnawed at her conscience. And she was building something beautiful on a foundation of lies, but she couldn't bring herself to end it. Not yet. Not when she finally felt alive. The spell shattered like dropped crystal when a confused voice cut through their intimate bubble. Liam? They both turned to see a woman standing by their table, brown hair, kind eyes, exactly like the photo from the dating app. Laura looked between them, her expression a mixture of confusion and hurt. I'm so sorry I'm late, Laura said, slightly breathless. There was a subway delay and my phone died and I couldn't let you know. I got here as fast as I could. She glanced at Amelia. I'm sorry, I think there's been some confusion. I'm Laura. We were supposed to meet tonight. Liam's face drained of color. He looked from Laura to Amelia, understanding crashing over him like a cold wave. You're not Laura, he said to Amelia, his voice hollow. Amelia's hands trembled in her lap. The beautiful evening, the connection, the vulnerability, all of it suddenly felt tainted. I can explain. You lied to me. Liam stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Several diners turned to look. This whole time you were lying. Please, let me explain, Amelia pleaded, standing as well. Her leg buckled slightly. It always did when she was stressed, and she grabbed the table for support. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. You sat down and you asked if I was Laura, and I was alone and I was tired of being invisible and I made a terrible decision, but everything else was real. Everything I told you was true, except your name, Liam said bitterly. Except the fact that you were playing some kind of game with me. What was this? Some rich girl's entertainment for the evening. Let's see how the working class guy reacts when I pretend to be his date. No, Amelia's voice broke. It wasn't like that at all. Please, Liam, that's my name. What's yours? Your real name? Before Amelia could answer, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A tall, silver-haired man in an expensive suit strode into the restaurant, followed by 2 security personnel. The Mater D rushed to greet him, practically bowing. Mr. Grant, what an honor. Where is she? Richard Grant's voice carried across the restaurant with the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on Amelia. Relief flashed across his face, quickly replaced by anger as he took in the scene, his daughter standing at a table with a young man who looked decidedly out of place in this establishment. Amelia, we're leaving. Now. Richard approached the table, his security detail flanking him. Dad, please, Amelia said, embarrassment flooding her cheeks. Not here. Grant? Liam repeated, the pieces clicking into place. As in Grant Industries, you're Amelia Grant? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course you are. This just keeps getting better. Richard's eyes fixed on Liam with undisguised contempt. Who are you? And what do you want with my daughter? Dad, stop it, Amelia said, her voice rising. He didn't know who I was. This is my fault, not his. I want nothing from your daughter, Liam said, his pride overriding his heartbreak. He pulled out his wallet, throwing bills on the table, probably more than he could afford. Consider the evening paid for. I'm sorry for the confusion, Miss Grant. Enjoy your life, Liam. Please wait. Amelia reached for him, but he pulled away as if her touch burned. You know what the saddest part is? Liam said, looking directly at her. For a few hours I actually thought someone saw me. The real me. But you were just slumming it, weren't you? Playing pretend with the mechanic. Well, playtime's over. Go back to your real life. He walked away, his shoulders rigid, leaving Amelia standing there with tears streaming down her face. Laura, who had been watching the scene unfold in shocked silence, quietly slipped away, wanting no part of this drama. How dare you make a spectacle of yourself like this? Richard hissed at Amelia. Do you have any idea what people will say? What the press will do with this if they find out? Something inside Amelia snapped. 3 years of guilt, of trying to be the daughter her father wanted, of making herself small and quiet and invisible. It all erupted. I don't care, she shouted, drawing every eye in the restaurant. For once in 3 years I felt like a person instead of a ghost, and you can't stand it. You can't stand that I might actually be happy. Happy? You call lying to some stranger and humiliating yourself happiness? Richard grabbed her arm, attempting to guide her toward the exit. Amelia yanked her arm free with surprising strength. He's not just some stranger. His name is Liam, and in 3 hours he made me feel more seen and valued than you have in 3 years. Do you know why? Because he actually listened when I talked. He didn't look at me like I was broken. He didn't treat me like I was made of glass. You are broken, Amelia, Richard said, and immediately regretted it. His face softened. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. You meant it. I'm broken because I killed Mom. I'm broken because I disappointed you. I'm broken because I'm not the perfect daughter you wanted. Tears streamed down her face. But her voice was steady now, clear. But you know what, Dad? I'm tired of apologizing for surviving. I'm tired of living in the shadow of what happened. And I'm tired of asking your permission to be human. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Every diner watched the scene unfold like spectators at a play. Richard, for once in his commanding life, looked lost. Let's discuss this at home, he said quietly. Please. Amelia nodded, suddenly exhausted. She allowed him to lead her out, his security detail forming a protective barrier against the curious stares. As they reached the door, she turned back one last time, hoping to catch a glimpse of Liam. But he was already gone, disappeared into the rainy Manhattan night, taking with him the brief, beautiful possibility of what they might have been. Liam didn't remember the subway ride home. He sat in the corner of the car, soaked from the rain he'd walked through aimlessly for over an hour, staring at nothing. The other passengers gave him wide berth. A young man with wet clothes and hollow eyes wasn't someone people wanted to sit near. His apartment in Queens was a studio that smelled like old pipes and the Chinese restaurant downstairs. He threw his keys on the counter, not bothering to turn on the lights, and sat on the edge of his bed in the darkness. The evening played on repeat in his mind like a cruel film. Every smile, every confession, every moment he'd thought he was connecting with someone real. Idiot, he muttered to himself. Fucking idiot. His phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from the hospital. His stomach dropped as he dialed the number with shaking fingers. Mr. Foster, this is Nurse Chun. Your mother had an episode this evening. She became agitated and confused. We had to sedate her. She kept asking for someone named Tommy. We couldn't calm her down. Tommy, his father's name. The man who'd abandoned them over 2 decades ago. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Liam said, already grabbing his jacket. The care facility was on the other side of Queens, a clean but impersonal building that smelled like antiseptic and defeat. Liam signed in at the front desk. The night receptionist knew him by now and made his way to his mother's room. Sarah Foster looked small in the hospital bed, her once vibrant red hair now mostly gray, her face gaunt. At 53, she looked 70. The disease was eating away at her, taking pieces of who she'd been and leaving behind a confused stranger. Mom? Liam sat in the chair beside her bed, taking her hand. She opened her eyes, focusing on him with difficulty. Tommy? Is that you? You came back. The knife twisted in his chest. It's Liam, Mom, your son. Liam? She frowned, struggling to grasp the name. Do I know a Liam? He'd been through this dozens of times, but it never got easier. Yes, Mom, I'm your son. Remember? You used to call me your little lion because I roared when I was a baby. Sometimes the memories would spark recognition. Tonight wasn't one of those times. I'm waiting for Tommy, she said, agitation creeping into her voice. He went to get milk. He'll be back soon, he promised. Liam swallowed the lump in his throat. Okay, Mom, I'll wait with you. He sat there for 3 hours, holding her hand while she drifted in and out of sleep, occasionally asking for a man who would never return. When she finally settled into a deep sleep, Liam walked to his car in the parking lot and broke down. Great heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep inside, for his mother who was disappearing, for his father who'd abandoned them, for himself who worked himself to exhaustion and still couldn't afford better care, for the girl who'd made him feel special for a few hours before revealing it was all a lie. Why? He asked the empty car, his voice hoarse. Why can't something just go right? He drove to the auto shop even though it was 2 a.m. He had keys. Frank, the owner, trusted him with everything. Liam changed into his work coveralls and crawled under a Toyota Camry that needed its transmission rebuilt. He worked in silence, the familiar smell of oil and metal grounding him. This was real. This was solid. A car either worked or it didn't. Parts fit together or they didn't. There were no lies under the hood, no pretense, no rich girls playing games with working-class hearts. As dawn broke, painting the shop's grimy windows with orange light, Liam realized something. For those 3 hours with Amelia, whatever her real name was, he'd forgotten to be tired. He'd forgotten to worry. He'd felt, for the first time since his mother's diagnosis, like life might hold something more than just survival. And that was the cruelest part. Not that she'd lied, but that she'd shown him a glimpse of something better before snatching it away. He thought about her green eyes filling with tears, the way her voice had cracked when she'd told him about the accident. Had any of that been real? Or was even her pain performed for his benefit? Liam finished the transmission as his coworker Marcus arrived for the morning shift. Man, you look like death, Marcus said, clapping him on the shoulder. You pull an all-nighter? Something like that? That date last night go bad, Liam laughed humorlessly. You could say that. Turns out she wasn't who I thought she was. They never are, brother. They never are. Marcus grabbed his tool belt. But hey, plenty more fish in the sea, right? Liam nodded, but he didn't believe it. He'd thrown the bait once and he'd hooked a shark. He wasn't eager to try again. For the next 2 weeks, Liam threw himself into work with single-minded intensity. He took every overtime shift offered, doubled down on his weekend jobs, and visited his mother every evening. He deleted his dating apps, unfollowed all social media, and built walls around his heart brick by careful brick. He told himself he was fine. He told himself it didn't matter. He told himself that a mechanic from Queens and a billionaire's daughter lived in different universes, and their brief intersection had been nothing more than a cosmic accident. But late at night, alone in his small apartment, he couldn't stop replaying their conversation. The way she'd looked at him when she said, "You matter to me." The vulnerability in her voice when she'd confessed about the accident. The connection that had felt more real than anything he'd experienced in years. And despite everything, despite the lies and the humiliation and the heartbreak, A small, stubborn part of him wondered, what if some of it had been real? What if she'd felt it too, that impossible connection? But then he'd remember her father's contempt, the expensive dress, the name Grant, and he'd push those thoughts away. People like Amelia Grant didn't end up with people like Liam Foster. That was just reality. Some fairy tales, he thought bitterly, weren't meant to have happy endings. Amelia stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom staring at a stranger. The woman looking back at her wore designer clothes, had perfect makeup, and lived in a penthouse that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. But her eyes were empty. 3 weeks had passed since that disastrous night at Lumiere. 3 weeks of her father's disappointed silences, of therapy sessions where she talked in circles, of lying awake at night replaying every moment with Liam. "Miss Grant," her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Dr. Morrison is here for your session." Amelia sighed. "Send her in." Dr. Patricia Morrison had been Amelia's therapist since the accident. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who didn't coddle and didn't judge, which was exactly why Amelia had chosen her. "You look terrible," Dr. Morrison said, settling into the armchair by the window. "Good morning to you too," Amelia replied, managing a weak smile. "Want to talk about what's really bothering you? And don't tell me it's general malaise. I've known you for 3 years, Amelia. I can tell when something specific is eating at you." So Amelia told her everything. About waiting for her father, about Liam sitting down at her table, about making the split-second decision to lie, about the conversation that had felt more honest than any she'd had in years, despite being built on deception, about the look on his face when he'd realized who she really was. "I hurt him," Amelia said, her voice breaking. "I made him feel special and seen, and then I proved that it was all a lie, just like everyone else in his life who's let him down." "Was it all a lie?" Dr. Morrison asked. "Everything you told him about yourself, was any of it false?" "No. That's what makes it worse. I told him things I've never told anyone. About the guilt, about feeling invisible, about my father. It was all true. Then you didn't lie about who you are. You lied about your name. There's a difference, is there? Because it doesn't feel like there's a difference." Amelia stood, pacing her bedroom. "I've spent 3 years trying to be the daughter my father wants. Quiet, grateful, never complaining, never asking for too much. And for 3 hours, I got to be someone else, someone normal. And you know what? That person was more me than I'd been in years." Dr. Morrison leaned forward. "So what are you going to do about it? What can I do?" "He made it clear he wants nothing to do with me. And honestly, I don't blame him. That's the guilt talking. The same guilt that's kept you locked in this tower for 3 years, afraid to live because you feel you don't deserve to. Amelia, when are you going to forgive yourself?" The question hung in the air. Amelia sank onto her bed, staring at her hands, hands that had gripped a steering wheel while drunk, hands that had effectively killed her mother. She whispered. "Then start smaller. What's one thing you've been afraid to do since the accident?" Amelia thought about it. "Drive. I haven't driven since that night. So drive. Get behind the wheel. Face that fear." "I can't." What if you have an accident? What if you freeze? What if people judge you?" "Doctor." Morrison's voice was gentle but firm. "Amelia, you can't live your life in what-ifs. Your mother died in that accident. But you didn't. You're still here, still breathing, still capable of joy and love and connection. Honor her memory by living, not by punishing yourself." After the session ended, Amelia stood on her balcony, looking out over Manhattan. The city sprawled before her. Millions of people living their lives, taking risks, making mistakes, trying again. When had she stopped being one of them? She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram, searching for Liam Foster. Nothing. She tried Facebook. Deleted or never existed. Twitter, TikTok, nothing. He'd erased himself from social media, or perhaps he'd never been there to begin with. But she had a friend who worked in digital marketing, someone who could find almost anyone online. Within an hour, Sarah had sent her a text. "Found him. Works at Frank's Auto Repair in Queens." "Why are you looking for a mechanic?" Amelia stared at the address. What would she even say if she showed up there? "Sorry I lied about my name, but everything else was real and I can't stop thinking about you." That evening she told her father she wanted to start driving again. Richard had been in his study reviewing contracts and he looked up in surprise. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "No," Amelia admitted. "But I need to try." Something shifted in her father's expression, not quite approval but not disapproval either. "I'll have the adaptive vehicle brought around tomorrow. And I'll arrange for a driving instructor. I don't want an instructor. I need to do this alone." They stared at each other across the study. Finally, Richard nodded. "All right. But please be careful." The next morning, Amelia sat in the driver's seat of a specially adapted SUV. her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. The last time she'd been in this position, she'd been 22, drunk and convinced she was invincible. Now she was 25, sober and terrified. She started the engine, pulled out of the garage, drove through Manhattan streets with excessive caution, her heart pounding. Every horn, every sudden brake, every pedestrian made her flinch, but she kept driving. She drove to Central Park and back, then she drove to Brooklyn, then Queens. And before she fully realized what she was doing, she was pulling up outside Frank's Auto Repair. Through the bay windows, she could see mechanics working on cars. And there, bent over an engine, was Liam. Even from this distance, even in grease-stained coveralls, she recognized him. Her heart clenched, and she couldn't go in. Not yet. Not until she figured out what to say, how to explain, how to make him understand that what they'd shared had been real, even if the circumstances had been false. Amelia drove home, but something had changed. She'd faced two fears in one day, driving and seeing Liam, even from a distance. It was a start. Over the next week, she threw herself into therapy with new intensity. She talked about the accident, really talked about it for the first time. She talked about her mother, not just the loss, but the guilt. And the fact that her last words to her mother had been an argument about the party, about drinking, about responsibility. "Mom told me not to go," Amelia confessed, tears streaming down her face. She said I'd been partying too much, drinking too much, and I screamed at her that she didn't control me. Those were the last words I said to her while she was fully conscious. And then I killed her. You didn't murder her, Amelia. You made a terrible mistake. Does the distinction matter to her? She's still dead? No, but it matters to you, because it determines whether you get to live again. Amelia started attending a support group for people who'd caused accidents. Hearing others' stories, seeing their struggles and their healing, helped her realize she wasn't alone in her guilt. She started volunteering at a local organization that educated teenagers about drunk driving, turning her tragedy into something that might prevent others suffering. And slowly, painfully, she started to forgive herself. Not fully, maybe she never would, but enough to believe she deserved another chance at happiness. 1 month after that night at Lumiere, Amelia drove back to Frank's Auto Repair. This time she got out of the car. This time she walked through the door. This time she was ready to face him. The bell above the door chimed as Amelia entered Frank's Auto Repair. The shop smelled like motor oil, rubber, and honest work. A radio played classic rock somewhere in the back. Two mechanics looked up from their work, their expressions curious. "Help you?" one of them asked, wiping his hands on a rag. "I'm looking for Liam Foster," Amelia said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Liam," the mechanic called toward the back. "Customer for you." Amelia's heart hammered as she heard footsteps approaching. And then there he was, emerging from beneath a raised car, his face smudged with grease, his coveralls unzipped to the waist, revealing a worn t-shirt. He looked tired, thinner than she remembered, and absolutely beautiful. His eyes widened in recognition. For a moment, neither of them moved. The other mechanics sensed the tension and found excuses to be elsewhere. "Well, what are you doing here?" Liam's voice was flat, carefully controlled. "I needed to see you. Why? Want to slum it with the working class again? Let's get some authentic life experience for your memoir?" Amelia flinched but held her ground. "I deserve that. I deserve worse, actually. But I'm not here to argue. I'm here to apologize. Really apologize. Not the half-hearted attempt I made at the restaurant. You apologized just fine, and I heard you. Apology accepted. You can go now." He turned back toward the car. "Liam, please. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." He stopped, his shoulders tense. When he turned back, his eyes were filled with something between anger and pain. "Fine. 5 minutes. But not here." He led her out behind the shop to a small area where employees took breaks. There was a picnic table scarred with initials and cigarette burns. They sat on opposite sides, the table between them like a barrier. "I'm listening," Liam said. Amelia took a breath. "I wasn't trying to play games with you that night. I wasn't trying to humiliate you or use you for entertainment. I was sitting alone, waiting for my father who'd canceled on me again, feeling invisible and worthless. And then you sat down and you looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. Not Amelia Grant, Billionaire's daughter. Not the girl who killed her mother. Just... a person. So you lied. I made a terrible decision in a split second, and then I couldn't figure out how to unmake it. Every moment that passed made it harder to tell the truth. But Liam, everything else was real. Everything I told you about myself, about the accident, about feeling invisible, it was all true, except the most important part. You let me pour my heart out to you while you were playing pretend." His voice cracked slightly. "Do you know what that felt like? Finding out that the first person in years who made me feel seen was just... what? Testing out a different identity for the evening?" "I wasn't testing anything. I was being more myself with you than I'd been with anyone in 3 years. Amelia leaned forward, desperate for him to understand. My father controls every aspect of my life. Where I go, who I see, what I say in public. Since the accident, I've been his project, the broken daughter he needs to fix and protect and hide away. But with you, I wasn't broken, I was just me. The you that lies to strangers, the me that took a risk, the me that wanted, just for one night, to be normal, to be seen for who I am, not what I am. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. You asked me that night if I'd ever felt invisible. The answer is yes, every day. But not with you. With you, I felt visible. I felt real. And I'm sorry that I ruined that by not being brave enough to tell you the truth from the start. Liam was quiet for a long moment, staring at his grease-stained hands. You know what the worst part was? It wasn't even the lying. It was realizing that you come from a world where I don't exist, where people like me are invisible. Your father looked at me like I was dirt on his shoe, and he was right. I am nothing compared to you. I fix cars. You fly in private jets. You're not nothing, Amelia said fiercely. You're the man who works 2 jobs to take care of his mother, who gave up his dreams so she could have the care she needs, who opened up to a stranger because you're brave enough to be vulnerable. You're more real than anyone in my world. I don't want to be your charity case, Amelia. I don't want to be the project that makes you feel better about your privileged life. Is that really what you think? Amelia's voice rose. That I drove out here to Queens, walked into this shop, and humiliated myself because I need a project? I came here because I can't stop thinking about you. Because that conversation we had meant something to me. Because for 3 hours I felt alive in a way I haven't since before my mother died. You felt alive because you were lying, playing make-believe. I felt alive because I was with you. The words burst out of her, raw and honest. Because you listened when I talked. Because you shared your pain with me. Because you made me laugh. Because when you looked at me you saw a person worth knowing. And yes, I was a coward for not telling you my real name. I was selfish and scared and wrong. But the connection between us, that was real. Tell me you didn't feel it too. Liam stood abruptly, pacing away from the table. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. Of course I felt it. That's why it hurt so much when I found out you'd lied. I don't let people in, Amelia. I can't afford to. My life is work and my mother and survival. I don't have the luxury of feelings and connections and all that other stuff. And then you came along and cracked me open, and for a few hours I thought maybe there was more to life than just getting through the day. And then it all turned out to be fake. It wasn't fake, Amelia insisted, standing to face him. My feelings weren't fake. The way you made me feel wasn't fake. Yes, I lied about my name, but I didn't lie about anything that mattered. Your name matters. Your life matters. The fact that you're Amelia Grant matters. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. Don't you get it? We can't work. Even if I wanted to forgive you, even if I wanted to try, your father would never allow it. People in your world don't end up with people in mine. So that's it? You're going to let my father's prejudices dictate your life? I thought you were braver than that. Don't, Liam warned. Don't question my courage. You have no idea what my life is like. Then tell me. Help me understand. Because from where I'm standing, you're using my father and our different worlds as an excuse to stay safe, to not risk getting hurt. You already hurt me. The confession exploded out of him. You already proved that caring about someone just leads to pain, so yeah, I'm staying safe, I'm protecting myself. And you should go back to your penthouse and your perfect life and forget about the mechanic you lied to for entertainment. Stop telling me what I should do. Amelia's voice matched his in intensity. Stop deciding what I feel and why I'm here. I'm not here out of guilt or boredom or some misguided charity impulse. I'm here because I miss you. Because I haven't stopped thinking about you for one single day since that night. Because I'm falling for you and that terrifies me, but I'm here anyway because you're worth the fear. The words hung between them, shocking them both. Amelia hadn't meant to say it so directly, but there it was, the truth, naked and vulnerable. Liam stared at her, his expression unreadable. You don't even know me. I know that you're kind, that you sacrifice everything for the people you love, that you have dreams you've buried because you think you don't deserve them, that you make terrible jokes when you're nervous, that you see people really see them in a way most people don't. She took a step closer. I know that when you smile, it feels like the sun coming out. And I know that I hurt you, and I'm sorry, and I want the chance to make it right. How? Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How do we make this right when everything's stacked against us? I don't know, Amelia admitted, but I want to try. If you'll let me. Before Liam could respond, a voice called from inside the shop. Liam, your 3 o'clock is here. The spell broke. Liam took a step back, putting distance between them. I have to get back to work. Okay, Amelia said, trying to hide her disappointment. Can I? Can I see you again? Maybe somewhere we can actually talk. Somewhere that's not a mistake or a confrontation. Liam looked at her for a long moment, conflict clear on his face. Finally, he pulled a business card from his pocket and scribbled on the back. This is my number. The real one. If I don't answer, I'm either working or at the hospital with my mom. Amelia took the card like it was made of gold. Thank you. I'm not promising anything, Liam warned. I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if we can make this work. I don't even know if trying is a good idea. I know. But you're willing to think about it. That's enough for now. As she turned to leave, Liam called after her. Amelia? She turned back, hope flaring in her chest. Everything you told me that night about the accident, about your father, about feeling invisible, was that really true? Every word, she said softly. I swear. He nodded slowly. Then I'm sorry for what you've been through. Nobody should have to carry that much guilt alone. Tears spilled down Amelia's cheeks. Thank you. She walked back to her car, her hands shaking so badly she could barely open the door. But as she drove away, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. It was fragile and uncertain, but it was there. Liam watched her go, then returned to the shop, trying to focus on the transmission in front of him. But his mind kept replaying her words. I'm falling for you, and that terrifies me. But I'm here anyway because you're worth the fear. Nobody had ever said anything like that to him before. Nobody had ever fought for him, chosen him, been brave enough to risk rejection for him. Marcus appeared at his elbow. That the girl from the date? Yeah, she looks expensive. She is... You gonna call her? Liam stared at the card in his hand, at the number written in elegant handwriting. I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. But even as he said it, he was tucking the card carefully into his wallet, right next to the only photo he had of his mother from before she got sick. 3 days passed before Liam called. 3 days during which Amelia jumped every time her phone buzzed, her heart sinking each time it wasn't him. She was beginning to think she'd pushed too hard, asked too much, that he'd decided she wasn't worth the complication. Then, on Thursday evening, her phone rang with an unknown number. Hello? It's Liam. His voice was tentative, uncertain. Is this a bad time? No, Amelia said quickly, her heart racing. No, it's a perfect time. A pause. I've been thinking about what you said, about trying. And I'm probably going to regret this, but would you want to get dinner? Somewhere that's not Lumiere. Somewhere normal. Yes, Amelia said, perhaps too enthusiastically. Yes, I'd really like that. There's a pub I go to sometimes in Queens. Murphy's, nothing fancy, just good food and cold beer. Would that be okay? That sounds perfect. When? Saturday night? 7? I'll be there. After they hung up, Amelia stared at her phone, hardly daring to believe it. He was giving her another chance. She wasn't going to waste it. Saturday came with unexpected nervousness. Amelia stood in front of her closet, rejecting outfit after outfit. Everything was too expensive, too designer, too obviously wealthy. Finally, she settled on jeans, a simple sweater, and boots. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the casual woman staring back. Her father found her as she was leaving. Where are you going dressed like that? Out with a friend, Amelia said, deliberately vague. Richard's eyes narrowed. Which friend? Do I know them? Does it matter? I'm 25 years old, Dad. I'm allowed to have dinner with a friend. Amelia, I'll be back later, she said firmly, walking toward the elevator before he could argue. Murphy's pub was exactly as Liam had described. A neighborhood bar with worn wooden booths, neon beer signs, and the comfortable smell of fried food. Liam was already there, sitting in a corner booth, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt that made him look like he belonged in a commercial for authentic American life. He stood when he saw her, and for a moment they just looked at each other, both nervous, both uncertain. Hi, Amelia said. Hi, Liam gestured to the booth. I ordered us some appetizers. Hope that's okay. That's great. They sat down, and immediately an awkward silence descended. This was nothing like the effortless conversation at Lumiere. They were strangers again, the easy intimacy destroyed by lies and complications. This is weird, right? Liam finally said. It's not just me. Amelia laughed, relief flooding through her. It's incredibly weird. I don't know how to do this. The second first date with someone I've already bared my soul to under false pretenses. Maybe we start over, Liam suggested. Hi, I'm Liam Foster. I'm 26, I've fixed cars for a living, and I have trust issues stemming from abandonment and a general sense that life is designed to disappoint me. Amelia smiled. Hi, I'm Amelia Grant. I'm 25. I don't actually have a job because my father thinks I'm too fragile to work, and I have guilt issues stemming from killing my mother in a drunk driving accident. Well, when you put it that way, we're quite a pair. The corner of his mouth corked up. Two emotionally damaged people trying to figure out if they can trust each other. What could go wrong? Everything, Amelia said honestly. Everything could go wrong, but maybe something could go right. The appetizers arrived, buffalo wings, mozzarella sticks, things Amelia hadn't eaten in years. She picked up a wing, and Liam watched her with amusement. "You don't eat like a billionaire," he observed. "I'm not a billionaire. My father is. And trust me, he'd be horrified seeing me eat with my fingers right now. Amelia Grant doesn't do buffalo wings." "But Amelia does?" She met his eyes. "Amelia does whatever she wants. Or at least she's trying to learn how." They talked more easily after that, the awkwardness gradually fading. Amelia told him about starting to drive again, about the support group, about volunteering. Liam told her about his mother's worsening condition, about his dreams of opening his own shop someday, about the book he'd been reading about engine design. "You're still studying," Amelia realized. "Even though you left college." "Can't afford to stop learning just because I can't afford tuition," Liam said with a shrug. "Library's free." Something in Amelia's chest tightened. Here was a man who'd been handed every disadvantage life could offer, and he still fought to better himself, to learn, to grow. Meanwhile, she'd been handed every advantage and spent 3 years hiding. "What?" Liam asked, noticing her expression. "I'm just thinking about how brave you are." "I'm not brave. I'm just trying to survive." "That's what bravery is," Amelia said softly. "Surviving when everything's against you. Keeping going when giving up would be easier. Taking care of someone who doesn't even remember you. That's not just survival, Liam, that's heroic." He looked uncomfortable with the praise. "Anyone would do the same." "No, they wouldn't. Most people would have put their mother in a state facility and moved on with their lives. You sacrifice everything for her. She sacrificed everything for me first. It's just ... reciprocity." They ordered dinner burgers for both of them, which made Liam smile. "I figured you'd order a salad or something fancy." "Why?" "Because rich people don't eat burgers. Rich people don't usually eat at Murphy's Pub. Then they're missing out," Amelia said, taking a bite and immediately getting ketchup on her chin. Liam laughed, a real, genuine laugh, and handed her a napkin. "You've got a little ... elegant as always," Amelia said, wiping her face. But she was smiling too. As the evening progressed, the conversation deepened. They talked about their mothers, Liam slowly forgetting. Amelia's lost forever. They talked about guilt and responsibility and the weight of expectations. They talked about loneliness, about feeling invisible in a crowded room. "Can I ask you something?" Liam said as they shared a piece of apple pie. "Why me? I mean, you could have anyone. Someone from your world, someone your father would approve of. Why chase after a mechanic who has nothing to offer you?" Amelia set down her fork, considering the question seriously. "Because you see me. Not Amelia Grant, the billionaire's daughter. Not the girl who caused the accident. Just ... me. The person I am underneath all the rest. Do you know how rare that is? But you lied to me. How do I know you're not lying now?" "You don't," Amelia admitted. "You have to decide to trust me, knowing I might hurt you again. Just like I have to decide to trust you. Knowing you might decide I'm not worth the complication. That's terrifying." "It is. But the alternative is staying safe and alone. And I've been safe and alone for 3 years. I don't want that anymore." Liam reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. "I don't want that either. But I'm scared, Amelia. Scared of getting hurt. Scared of not being enough for you. Scared of your father and your world and all the ways this could blow up in our faces." Amelia took his hand, feeling the calluses from years of hard work. "I'm scared too. But I think you're worth being scared for." They left Murphy's hand in hand, walking through the Queen's streets under streetlights that painted everything in orange and gold. Liam walked her to her car. The expensive SUV looked wildly out of place in this neighborhood. "This was nice," Liam said. "Scary and weird, but nice. Can we do it again?" Amelia asked hopefully. "Yeah, but next time, my treat. I know you have more money than God, but I need to feel like I can contribute something." "Liam, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Please." She saw the pride in his eyes, the need to be equal in this relationship despite their vast differences. "Okay. Your treat next time." He smiled, and it was like the sun coming out, just as she'd remembered. Then hesitantly, he leaned down and kissed her cheek. "Drive safe." Amelia touched her cheek where his lips had been, feeling like a teenager again. "I will." As she drove home, her phone rang. Her father. "Where have you been?" "It's almost midnight. I told you, out with a friend." "What friend, Amelia?" "Why are you being so secretive?" She took a breath, knowing this conversation was coming, but wishing it could wait. "His name is Liam. We met a few weeks ago. And before you say anything, I like him. A lot." Silence on the other end. Then, "Liam. As in the young man from the restaurant? The mechanic?" "Yes. Absolutely not." "I forbid it. You can't forbid me from seeing someone, Dad. I'm an adult. An adult who lives in my home, drives my car, and depends on my resources. You want to make your own decisions? Start paying your own way." The threat hung in the air. Amelia felt anger rising. "So that's how it is. Either I obey you or you cut me off." I'm trying to protect you. This man, he's after your money, your name, he's after nothing. He doesn't want my money. He barely wants to be seen with me because he thinks he's not good enough, which says more about how you've raised me than anything about him. We'll discuss this when you get home. There's nothing to discuss. I'm seeing him and you can't stop me. She hung up, her hands shaking. She'd never defied her father so directly. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. When she arrived home, Richard was waiting in the living room. The argument that followed was explosive. Him accusing her of being naive, her accusing him of being controlling. It ended with Amelia saying the words she'd been too scared to say for 3 years. I love you, Dad, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life asking your permission to exist. Mom's death was my fault and I'll carry that guilt forever, but I'm not dead. I'm alive, and I'm going to live whether you approve or not. She walked to her room, her heart pounding, half expecting him to call her back. He didn't. Later she texted Liam, had a fight with my father. About us, but I don't regret it. I meant what I said. You're worth being scared for. His response came minutes later. You're worth it too. We'll figure this out. Together. Amelia fell asleep with her phone clutched in her hand, feeling more terrified and more alive than she had in years. 2 weeks of stolen moments followed. Coffee dates before Liam's shifts. Late-night phone calls when he got home from visiting his mother. One memorable afternoon when Amelia showed up at the auto shop with lunch and Liam introduced her to Marcus, who immediately understood what his friend saw in her. But they both knew the real confrontation was coming. Richard Grant wasn't a man who accepted defeat gracefully, and Liam's pride wouldn't let him hide forever. The confrontation came on a Tuesday afternoon. Liam was under a Honda Civic when Marcus called out, Liam, you might want to see this. Liam rolled out from under the car to find a limousine parked outside the shop. His stomach sank. He didn't need to see who emerged to know. Richard Grant stepped out, looking as out of place in the Queen's auto shop as Amelia had looked comfortable. He was flanked by a man in a dark suit who was clearly security. Mr. Foster, Richard said, his voice cold. We need to talk. Frank, the shop owner, emerged from his office. Is there a problem here? No problem, Liam said, standing. Just a conversation. He looked at Richard. We can talk in the back. They moved to the small break area where Liam had first talked with Amelia. Richard stood while Liam sat, refusing to be intimidated despite the power imbalance. I'll make this simple, Richard began. You're going to stop seeing my daughter. With all due respect, that's not your decision to make. Or mine. It's Amelia's. My daughter has been through tremendous trauma. She's vulnerable, fragile. She doesn't need someone taking advantage of her emotional state. Liam's jaw tightened. Not taking advantage of anyone. If anything, she pursued me. Showed up here, asked for another chance. I'm just trying to figure out if we can make this work. Make this work? Richard laughed bitterly. You're a mechanic. She's a Grant. What future do you possibly see? A future where she's happy, where someone treats her like a person instead of a broken doll that needs to be locked away. Liam stood, meeting Richard's eyes. You want to know what I see when I look at Amelia? I see someone strong who's been told she's weak. Someone brave who's been told she needs protection. Someone full of life who's been told she should hide away. You don't see your daughter, Mr. Grant. You see your guilt. Richard's face flushed. How dare you? You blame yourself for not being in that car, for not stopping her from driving, for not saving your wife. So you've spent 3 years suffocating Amelia, controlling every aspect of her life, telling yourself it's protection when really it's penance. You're trying to save her to make up for not saving her mother, but she doesn't need saving. She needs space to heal. You know nothing about my family. I know what Amelia's told me. I know she carries guilt she shouldn't have to carry alone. I know she spent 3 years trying to earn your forgiveness for something that was an accident. And I know she's finally starting to live again, and that terrifies you. Of course it terrifies me. The words burst out of Richard. She's all I have left. If something happens to her, then you'll survive it like she survived losing her mother. But you can't protect her from life. Mr. Grant, you can only suffocate her until there's nothing left but a ghost. They stared at each other, the truth hanging between them. Finally, Richard spoke, his voice quieter. What do you want from her? Nothing she doesn't want to give. I don't want her money. I don't want her name. I just want her, the real her, not the version you've tried to create. And when you realize how complicated her world is, when the press finds out, when people judge you, when the reality of our differences becomes impossible to ignore, then we'll deal with it, together. Liam's voice was steady. I grew up with nothing, Mr. Grant. I know what it's like to fight for what matters, and she matters. So I'll fight against you, against society, against whoever, because she's worth it. Richard studied him for a long moment. You really believe that? I do. You could never give her the life she's accustomed to. No. But I can give her a life she chooses. That's worth more than all your money. Before Richard could respond, another car pulled up Amelia's SUV. She emerged, her face flushed with anger. What are you doing here? She demanded of her father. I might ask you the same thing. Marcus called me, she said, glancing at Liam apologetically. Told me my father showed up. Good man, that Marcus, Liam muttered. Amelia turned to her father. Whatever you're trying to do, it won't work. I'm not a child you can manipulate anymore. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From being happy? From having someone who sees me as a person instead of a tragedy? Her voice rose. I've spent 3 years living in your shadow, drowning in guilt, trying to be the perfect grieving daughter. But I'm done. I'm done apologizing for surviving. I'm done asking permission to live. Amelia, please, no. She moved to stand beside Liam. Liam's right. You're not protecting me, you're imprisoning me. And the worst part is, I let you. I let you control my life because I thought I deserved it. But I don't. I made a terrible mistake and Mom died, and I'll carry that for the rest of my life. But I'm not going to let it kill me too. Richard looked between them, his face a mixture of anger and something else. Fear, perhaps, or loss. If you do this, if you choose him, you're choosing to leave our world behind. People will judge you. The press will be merciless. Your friends will whisper about you. Then they're not my friends. Amelia's voice was steady. I don't want that world anymore, Dad. I want a real life with real problems and real joys. I want to be seen. And Liam sees me. And when he sees your bank account? Richard's voice was cruel now. When he realizes what he could gain from marrying you. I don't want to marry her, Liam interjected. Both Grants turned to stare at him. I mean, not right now. We've been on like 4 dates. But if someday we get there, it'll be because we love each other, not because of money. Despite everything, Amelia smiled. Smooth, Liam. Really smooth. I'm just being honest. Richard watched this exchange, and something in his expression soft. Just a fraction. You really care for each other? We're trying to, Amelia said. That's all anyone can do. Try and see what happens. Richard was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. Your mother would have liked him. She always preferred authenticity over pedigree. Amelia's eyes filled with tears. She would have. But I still think this is a mistake. I think you're both being naive about the challenges you'll face. Maybe we are, Liam acknowledged. But we're willing to find out, Richard nodded slowly, then looked directly at Liam. If you hurt her, if you use her, manipulate her, break her heart, I will destroy you. Not with violence, but with the full weight of my resources and influence. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Liam said, meeting his gaze steadily. And if I hurt her, I'll deserve it. Dad, Amelia said softly, will you give us your blessing? I'm going to do this either way, but I'd rather do it with you than without you. Richard looked at his daughter. Really looked at her perhaps for the first time. Since the accident, he saw not the broken girl he'd been trying to fix, but a woman making her own choices, standing on her own feet. I can't give my blessing, he said finally. Not yet. But I won't stand in your way. He turned to leave, then stopped. Amelia, you'll always have a home with me. No matter what happens, no matter what you choose. You're my daughter, and I love you. I love you too, Dad. Richard nodded and returned to his limousine. As it pulled away, Amelia sagged against Liam, suddenly exhausted. That went better than expected, Liam said. He didn't threaten you with actual violence, so yeah, that's a win. She looked up at him. You didn't have to defend me like that. Yes, I did. Someone needed to tell him the truth. Might as well be the mechanic with nothing to lose. She laughed, wrapping her arms around him. My hero. I'm nobody's hero. Just a guy who's trying really hard not to screw this up. Same, Amelia said. But I think we might actually make it. Yeah? Yeah. She pulled back to look at him. Want to get out of here? Go somewhere that's not a dramatic confrontation? Liam grinned. Your place or mine? Considering mine is a penthouse where my father just drove away from, and yours is probably a tiny apartment you're embarrassed to show me. How about neither? Let's just drive. See where we end up. I like that idea. They got into Amelia's SUV and she handed him the keys. You drive? You sure? I trust you. Those 3 words meant more than any declaration of love could have. Liam took the keys and they drove out of Queens into the evening, the city lights spreading before them like possibilities. They ended up at a diner in New Jersey, eating pancakes at midnight and talking about everything and nothing. They talked about Liam's mother, about Amelia's therapy, about what they wanted from life. I want to matter, Liam said. Not be rich or famous. Just ... matter. Make a difference in some small way. You already matter, Amelia said. To your mother. To your co-workers, to me. What about you? What do you want? To be free, she said without hesitation. Free from guilt, from expectations, from fear. I want to wake up every morning and choose my life, not have it chosen for me. That's a good goal. We're quite a pair, aren't we? The mechanic who wants to matter and the heiress who wants to be free. Sounds like the start of a good story. Amelia reached across the table, taking his hand. Let's make it a great one. 6 months later, rain fell on Manhattan just as it had the night they first met. But this time, Amelia and Liam stood together under an awning outside a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. Not Lumiere, but a place that felt like them. You ready? Liam asked, squeezing her hand. For dinner? Always. You know what I mean? Amelia looked up at him, this man who had changed her life by seeing her when she felt invisible. I'm ready. They walked into the restaurant where Marcus and his girlfriend sat at a table with Frank from the shop and his wife. In the corner booth sat Richard Grant, looking uncomfortable but present. Amelia had invited him and he'd surprised her by coming. Is this everyone? Liam asked. Almost. Amelia checked her phone. Sarah's running late, and Dr. Morrison said she'd try to make it. You invited your therapist to dinner? She's been a huge part of my journey. I wanted her to see how far I've come. They sat down and conversation flowed. Marcus told embarrassing stories about Liam at the shop. Frank talked about how business was improving with Liam's innovative ideas. Richard surprisingly shared a story about Amelia as a child that made everyone laugh. Later, when most of the guests had left and only Richard remained at their table, Amelia took her father's hand. Thank you for coming. I almost didn't, Richard admitted. But then I realized I'd missed enough of your life. I don't want to miss anymore. I know I haven't been the daughter you wanted. You've been exactly the daughter I needed, Richard interrupted. You taught me that control isn't love, that protection can become prison, that sometimes the bravest thing a parent can do is let go. He looked at Liam. I was wrong about you. You're good for my daughter. I appreciate that, sir. Call me Richard. Sir makes me feel older than I already do. He stood to leave, then turned back. Amelia, I've been thinking. Grant Industries needs someone to head the charitable foundation. Someone who understands struggle, who has empathy, who knows what it means to fight through difficult times. I can't think of anyone better than you. Amelia's eyes widened. Dad, are you serious? Completely. It's not a pity position. It's a real job with real responsibility. But I think you're ready for it. If you want it, I do. I really do. After Richard left, Amelia turned to Liam, tears in her eyes. Did that just happen? Your dad just offered you a job and called me by my first name. So yeah, I think hell froze over. She laughed, then sobered. I have something to tell you. About my mother. Liam waited, sensing this was important. I visited her grave today. First time since the funeral. And I hurriedly talked, not just apologized. I told her about you, about therapy, about starting to forgive myself. And I felt ... release, like maybe she'd been waiting for me to let go of the guilt. Tears streamed down her face. I felt her forgiveness, Liam. For the first time since the accident. I felt like maybe I could bet in tar Novama Tikenwerf. Liam pulled her close, not caring that they were in a public restaurant. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. You showed me what it means to be seen, to be valued for who you really are. You gave me the courage to forgive myself. You had that courage all along. I just reminded you it was there. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the rain streak down the restaurant windows. Finally, Amelia asked the question that had been on her mind. What happens now? Liam smiled. That sun coming out smile she'd fallen in love with. We keep going. One day at a time. You start your new job, I keep working toward opening my own shop. We figure out how to blend our worlds instead of choosing between them. What about your mother? How is she? His expression clouded. Not great. She's declining faster than the doctors expected, but I'm making peace with it. With the fact that she might not remember me, but I'll always remember her. I'd like to visit her with you sometime, if that's okay. She'd like that. Or at least the part of her that's still in there would. Amelia leaned her head on his shoulder. You know what's funny? That night at Lumiere, I was so desperate to be someone else. Anyone else. And now I'm finally comfortable being exactly who I am. And who is that? Amelia Grant. Daughter. Survivor. Foundation director. Woman in love with a mechanic who sees her for exactly who she is. She lifted her head to look at him. How about you? Who are you, Liam Foster? Still figuring that out, he admitted, but I think I'm getting closer. I'm a son, even when my mother doesn't remember I exist. A mechanic who dreams bigger than transmissions. A man who's learning that letting someone in doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. He cupped her face in his calloused hands. And I'm the luckiest guy in the world because you sat at the wrong table. The right table, Amelia corrected. It was always the right table. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, tasting like possibility and promise. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. I love you, Amelia said. It was the first time she'd said it out loud, and the words felt like freedom. I love you too, Liam replied. Even though you lied about your name, showed up at my work uninvited, and come with a terrifying billionaire father who could destroy me with a phone call. She laughed. And when you put it that way, you're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. They left the restaurant hand in hand, stepping out into the rain. It fell just as hard as it had that first night, but this time they were together, prepared for whatever storms lay ahead. Want to share a cab? Liam asked. Actually, I drove. Want to come back to my place? We could watch a movie, order takeout, just ... Be together. Your place? The penthouse where your father lives? He's spending the night at his club, some business thing. We'd have it to ourselves, Liam pretended to consider. Will there be buffalo wings? I'll order a dozen. Then how can I refuse? They drove through the rain-slick streets of Manhattan, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement like scattered stars. The radio played soft jazz, and Amelia found herself humming along, something she hadn't done in years. You're happy, Liam observed. I am. Is that weird? After everything, the accident, the guilt, the complicated family dynamics, the fact that we have no idea if this will actually work long-term, it's not weird. It's human. You're allowed to be happy, Amelia. Even with all the complications. So are you, you know. You're allowed to want more than just survival. He was quiet for a moment. I'm learning that. Slowly. At the penthouse, they kicked off their shoes and Amelia ordered food while Liam explored the massive living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below them, millions of lights representing millions of lives. This view never gets old, he said. I barely notice it anymore. Funny how you can become blind to beauty when you see it every day. I'll never get tired of looking at you, Liam said, then immediately looked embarrassed. Sorry, that was cheesy. It was perfect. Amelia joined him at the window, wrapping her arms around his waist. Everything about this is perfect. Imperfect, but perfect. They spent the evening on the couch, eating buffalo wings and watching a terrible action movie, trading commentary and stealing kisses. It was ordinary and domestic and absolutely perfect. Around midnight, as Liam was getting ready to leave, Amelia stopped him at the door. Stay, she said. Not for... Just stay, sleep here. I want to wake up knowing you're close. He searched her eyes, then nodded. Okay. They fell asleep in Amelia's room, her head on his chest, his arms around her. Outside, the rain finally stopped, and the first hints of dawn began to paint the sky pink and gold. Liam woke first, watching Amelia sleep in the early morning light. She looked peaceful, the worry lines that usually creased her forehead smooth and relaxed. He thought about how far they'd both come from that mistaken meeting to this moment of quiet intimacy. They didn't have all the answers. Her world and his were still vastly different. There would be challenges ahead, her society friends who looked down on him, his insecurity about not being enough, the constant navigation of their different backgrounds. His mother's condition would continue to decline. Amelia would have difficult days where the guilt returned, but they had each other. They had honesty, hard-won trust, and a commitment to seeing each other, really seeing each other for who they truly were. Amelia stirred, opening her eyes to find him watching her. Hey yourself. What time is it? Early. The sun's barely up. She smiled, snuggling closer. Good. We can stay like this a little longer. Amelia? Thank you. For what? For not correcting the mistake. For sitting at the wrong table with me. For giving us a chance. She propped herself up on her elbow, looking down at him. It was never the wrong table, Liam. It was fate disguised as a mistake. The universe putting us exactly where we needed to be. You believe in fate now? I believe in us. That's enough. He pulled her down for a kiss, and in that moment, with the dawn breaking over Manhattan and rain still clinging to the windows like diamonds, everything felt possible. Later, over coffee and bagels, they made plans. Liam would introduce Amelia to his mother next week. Amelia would start her new job at the foundation next month. They'd figure out their schedules, make time for each other, build something real together. What should we tell people? Amelia asked. When they ask how we met, Liam grinned. We tell them the truth. That you were sitting alone, I sat at the wrong table, and somehow everything went exactly right. People will think it's crazy. Let them. Our story doesn't have to make sense to anyone but us. Amelia raised her coffee cup. To wrong tables and right people. Liam clinked his mug against hers. To taking chances and finding each other. To imperfect love in an imperfect world. To us. To us, Amelia echoed. Outside the penthouse windows, Manhattan woke up to a new day. Somewhere in Queens, Frank was opening the auto shop. In a hospital across town, Sarah Foster slept peacefully, unaware of her son's happiness but somehow present in it. In his own home, Richard Grant sat with his morning paper, thinking about his daughter and allowing himself to hope she'd finally found her way. And in the penthouse, two people from different worlds sat together in comfortable silence, knowing that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. but confident they could travel it together. Sometimes the best love stories begin with a mistake, a wrong table, a mistaken identity, a moment of deception that leads to unexpected truth. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself. Sometimes you have to break before you can heal. Liam and Amelia had both been broken. They'd both been lost. But in finding each other, they'd found the courage to become whole again. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and true and brave enough to try. As morning sun flooded the penthouse, Amelia took Liam's hand across the table. No words were needed. They'd said everything that mattered. They'd found each other at the wrong table, but they'd built something, right? And that, in the end, was all that mattered. The rain would come again. It always did in New York. But they'd face it together, hand in hand. Two people who'd learned that sometimes the best things in life begin with beautiful mistakes. And when someone asked them if they believed in fate, in destiny, in the universe conspiring to bring people together, they'd smile and say, "We believe in taking chances. We believe in being brave. We believe in love that sees past wealth and status to the person underneath. We believe in second chances and wrong tables that turn out to be exactly right." That was their story. Imperfect, complicated, real. And it was just beginning. If this story touched you in any way, share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in their shoes? Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And let us know where you're watching from, because sometimes one wrong table can change everything.